Hi, everybody. It's a little bit before 3. I'm hoping by doing this, maybe I won't have such a lag, but I don't know. In fact, I don't even know if anybody's going to join me today. I appreciate those people who are tuning in, even if it's you're coming later. I love doing the office hours. I love doing this with you. So, hopefully, if you're there, say hi. If not, I completely understand because there will be people who watch this later. And let's see, am I live? I don't know. So you all are just going to see me. It's going to flip around here to see if I'm live on my channel. Oh, yes, I am live. Hey, Caroline, how are you doing? I hope you are well. Now, there's going to be a second where there might be a little, hey, Dame, is it Damie? Damie, hello. Hey, so what I'm going to do is, mute me so I can see y'all's comments a little faster. Hey, Elena, you miss me. Oh, guys, I can't believe I'd already done my last webinar, but that's okay. That is okay. So what did I want to do today? I wanted to go over some different ways to study. And specifically, I wanted to talk about flashcards again because a lot of people are coming to me. They're like, I'm studying. It's not effective. I'm taking the questions. And I know I do a lot of questions in the webinars and different things where I say, go over the answers. And then I tell you, go study. But what does that mean? Right? So I wanted to show you what I mean when I say, study some sort of way. That's important to me. So what I'm going to do is, yes, this is going to take some help from you. So I need somebody to put in a vocab word or a topic that you are struggling with, right? I need you to put in a vocab word or a topic that you are struggling with, and then let's go from there. So hopefully, y'all have something. And if we want to do some math later, we totally can. I know somebody's going to say discount points, and we can do that too. But I need a vocab word or something you're struggling with. And I'm going to go, boop, here. And I think I can, let's see. Hey, Juana, I think we can go here. Oh, look, it's me. Look, it's me. I'm a little psycho. It's me. I think you can see me. We'll kind of move it over a little bit. Oh, there we go. So, lean versus title. Okay, so that's a topic. You need to bring your finance up. Okay, so let's talk about okay. Let's start. I'll do something a little different. So this is why I love live, because I don't ever know where this is going to go. I was going to start with the flashcards, but we're going to do this. And I want to see if I can move me in my picture a little bit more like my camera. That's a little bit better. I was going to see if you can see more of me. I don't even know if you want to see me. You get me, though. So somebody said lean. Yeah, wait, lean. Yeah, I'm like, wait, which one? Okay, it's lean, right? I'm like, it's always weird. Hey, Grace, I understand. All right, so somebody said lean versus title. Why does the word lean always just look so weird? So, boop. Lean versus title. Now, when you all are... what is going on with my spelling? I swear to God, y'all, if I started smelling burnt toast, I'd be like, oh, it's a stroke. I'm having a big one. So first, when you're studying and you're trying to understand something, so let's say you get the question wrong and the answer was lean and you answered title. There's some steps I want you to take. Can anybody tell... Oh, that's okay. Can anybody tell me what a lean is? Can anybody tell me what is the definition of a lean? But I do not want you to just say, oh, and give me some spitting out of a memorized words that you understand. Like if you were explaining this to a customer, what would you say a lien is? Like if I was your seller client and I said, oh, I want to sell my house, and you looked it up and you're like, oh, Candace, you have a number of liens on your property. What is a lien? Okay, I love that. Dream On Eventing said, what you owe. So I'm going to say, I do love that. I love that they said, what you owe. Right? I like that. And I would say it's a charge. It's monies owed by either a person or a property. All right? So So what I'm going to do is say, all right, well, now that I know that this is money owed by either a person or a property, what else do I know? People claiming dibs on debt. Amani, I love that. People claiming dibs on debt. Love it. I love it. Right? So, Caroline, I see you said a legal claim on a person's property by their creditor to recover an unpaid debt or obligation. In fact, I'm going to put this on the screen because I love what you said here. Right? It's a legal claim on a person's property by their creditor to recover an unpaid debt or obligation. But does everybody see that we're all saying the same thing? One of the big things about passing this test is you need to know what a lien is, but you also need to identify it when you get the big fancy words like Caroline just said, right? I want you to understand it, and I love this. People claiming dibs on a debt. Why is that so important? Because now we can take this on a path, a trail. You know, if there's a lien, then there's money owed to a creditor, right? And that creditor then goes to the Register of Deeds to file a lien, right? And this is where I want you to not just think. I was talking to somebody the other day. Every word, every topic is like a puzzle piece. Some puzzle pieces are bigger than other puzzle pieces. You know full well you are going to be tested what is a lien. That is a huge, that gets 3. That's going to be a huge test topic. But then on the minor side, you would need to know somewhat smaller. Oh, it could be against a person or it could be against a property. If it's against a property, we know it's a specific lien. If it is by, against a person, it's a general lien. Right? It's the connecting of the information that is going to help you learn. That's what we want to know. Now, does anybody know anything about specific liens? Like, what type of specific liens are there? We know there are mortgage liens. We know there are real property tax liens. We know that there are mechanics liens. If we're talking about general liens, we know there are judgment liens. We know there's, income tax liens. It's about putting this information together. So all of this, we just from this one word lien, I love that you said lien versus title, but we just said, okay, here's what we know about a lien. Well, what do we know about title? Hey, Tricks. We know title is ownership. When you have title, you have a claim to ownership. And we know the way to transfer ownership is a deed. Can anybody tell me some different types of deed? Now, a deed is proof of ownership. And when you're talking about real property, but this is a great example. Somebody said it's proof of ownership. That's not its number one focus or its number one job. Its number one job is to transfer ownership, and its secondary job is to be of proof of ownership, which of course you record at the Register of Deeds so that it becomes constructive notice. But you see how it's all connected? So, all right, you all gave me some things. We have a quitclaim deed. We have a deed of trust, a trust deed. We have a bargain and sale deed. You know, we have our warranty deed. And that's sometimes called a general. We have a special warranty deed. We have sheriff's deeds. You have deeds of correction. Now, I don't expect you to know all these off the top of your head. I don't expect you to know all these off the top of your head just like I did. But what I do expect you to do is know, hey, which ones am I probably going to be tested on? Can you tell me about the quitclaim deed? Can you tell me about the general warranty deed? Can you tell me about a special warranty deed? Can you tell me about a trust deed? And for all of those, this is me practicing my new signature. Let's erase that. That's my new. I figure if Prince can be known by like a symbol, why can't I? So that would be my symbol. But I'm erasing it. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Right? So for every single one of these, what is it used for? Like, what's the purpose? And how is it different? Than other deeds. So when you're studying, let's kind of walk through it. You're studying, and the answer to the question is special warranty deed. What I want you to do is say, okay, I know a special warranty deed. If it's a deed, I know by definition it transfers title. A special warranty deed is not as good as a general warranty deed because the general warranty deed covers all time, and the special warranty deed is only for one owner. It's only for the current owner. Right? So I know it's different in that way. You still get covenants and warranties, but I know it's different. What's it used for? Sometimes in foreclosures you might get it. Sometimes somebody inherits a property or gains a property and they don't want to stand behind the title. So they'll say, I'll give you a special warranty deed, but I will not give you a general warranty deed. Either way, when you started on special warranty deed, I want you to go through and say, hey, what else do I know about deeds? Because remember, this test, and if you remember only one thing today, practice test questions are not for learning. I know that makes sense. Does that make sense? They are not for learning. They are for telling you what you need to learn. What do I mean by that? A lot of people will go in and they will say, oh, I took my practice test questions and I'm getting 100% on it. But then I go to the exam and I fail. Oh no, why? Well, that's because the test questions aren't here for learning. They're not here to teach. They are not here to teach. They're here to tell you what you need to study. So when the answer to the test question is special warranty, it's telling you either I know about special warranty deeds or I don't know about special warranty deeds. It's a prompt to tell you, do I need to learn more about these things? So all of this started with, oh, well, what's the difference between lien versus title? Well, we know what a lien is, we know what title is, and we know a lien is placed on the title. A lien is placed on a title when there are monies owed. And then when you want to get rid of that lien, there would generally be a quitclaim deed. See how it all kind of connects? It all kind of connects. And that's what I want when you're studying. I want you to feel like the information connects. Right? Now I'm going to roll back. I love that. Said dibs on a debt. I love that, Amani. Somebody give me, I won't go back. Somebody give me another vocab word. Something that doesn't, like, look through your glossary. Give me a random vocab word. Not a topic, but a random vocab word. Anybody? Because what I'm going to do is show you how I have been doing my flashcards. So these are just exam topics. In fact, I'll help you all. Alienation. Awesome. Love that word. All right. So on the front page of my flashcard, I'm going to write the word. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Helps if I spell it right. A-L. Alienation. I don't know why it just seems so weird to spell it out that way. So when I do flashcards, and y'all, I do flashcards mentally and in writing, right? What I'm doing is I need to categorize it, I need to define it, I need to connect it, and I need to know why it's important. If I can't do all of these things, then I don't know the word. If I can only do 2 of these 4 things, if I can only do 3 of these 4 things, then it doesn't go into my, oh, I know this thing. I need to be able to know it backwards and forwards. So alienation, right? So here's where the word goes, alienation. And my first step is to categorize it. If I'm talking about alienation, I'm talking about probably transfer of title. Now, I could make a side note that there is something called the alienation clause, but the alienation clause is a thing. The concept of alienation is about transferring title. It comes from the transferring of title. And what it means is to alienate is to separate yourself from. So that's how I would write it. I would say separate from. And specifically, I would say to move title from one to another. If you are alienating something, you have title in one place and you're moving it to another. Is that the fancy definition you would see online? Absolutely not. But what it is something that makes sense. So first step is to categorize it. The second step is to define it. Stop that. And our third step is to connect it. Well, if I've got alienation, I know that I have to have, what do I need to know about alienation? I need to know that there's voluntary and there's involuntary. There's voluntary alienation and there's involuntary alienation. And if I know there's voluntary alienation, I know there's two answers that could be here. It's something that could be willed. Like if I die, I could will it to somebody, or I could use a deed to transfer it to somebody. If I'm talking about involuntary alienation, I could be talking about foreclosure or a sheet or eminent domain. We love that. So what's the difference between conveying and alienation? Great question. And that's what I want you all to do. So they're both verbs. When you convey something, you're alienating yourself from it. So I think conveyance is the action of it doing, and alienation is describing what happens. But I could say Candace conveyed the property to her sister. Or I could say Candace alienated herself from the property by giving it to her sister. They're saying the same thing. Does that make sense, Amani? Yes, good, awesome. So, you could write these on your notes, right? You could write that in your notes. But what I think is one of the most important steps is this step 4 is, why is it important? And what I mean is kind of like two things. How is this tested? And in real life, how could this mess you up? How could it stop you from getting paid? Well, that's a great question. And Amani, you're great. A deed is for when you're alive, and a will is for after your death. So when I ask, how is this important? What I can do is I can say, oh, how did I see this tested? Well, let's make this here. How did I see it tested? I was tested about voluntary alienation, alive versus dead. If you want to voluntarily alienate yourself from the property when you're dead, how do you do that? A deed is an example of a voluntary alienation while you're alive. Those are ways how they test it. You get what I'm saying there? Or they might ask you, which of the following is or isn't a way to involuntarily alienate someone from land. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, how has this been tested? What kind of questions have you seen? How are they wanting you to apply it? And then also, in real life, how could this mess you up? Well, in real life, the seller has to be able to give a deed. The seller has to be able to. They have to be able to voluntarily alienate themselves, right? And the seller might also have that alienation clause. We know that alienation clause comes from the finance or mortgages. It's really specifically in the promissory note. And we need to make sure that this seller knows, hey, when you sell your house, you are going to have to pay back that loan. The alienation clause says, when you lose or give title away, when you convey title or an interest to this property to somebody else, you need to pay the bank back in full. Because we know the alienation clause is also known as the due on sale clause. Does that make sense? Does this kind of help give you an idea of what I want you to do? I am not here to just have you all, oh, I can get some questions right. I want to make sure you feel more comfortable when you take these questions. I want to make sure that you can't just say, oh, I memorized it. But like one of the questions that Amani asked, which was great, what's the difference between conveying and alienation? That lets me know you're thinking about not just what is it. Remember, there's two types of questions on this exam you all are getting ready to take. I think there's two levels. Type 1 questions are recall and recognition. This is going to be like basic definitions. And most people will get those right. The second type of question is application and analysis. Did I spell that right? Who knows? This is when you have to apply the information. These are those questions where you can eliminate or get it down to two choices. But you have to look at the wording and apply what you know. It's all about the wording. Once you get it down to those two choices, you've got to look at it and you've got to say, okay, what about the detail is not working? I mean, you want to look at details here for your basic definitions, but in the application and analysis. So let's say there was a test question that talked about doing a deed versus a will. A great test question where you get it down to two answers would say a deed is voluntary while you're alive and a will is voluntary during your death. And so if the answer is, does, let's say Candace wants to give her house to Billy when she dies. And then it might say something, which of the following would work? Well, you had to apply when she dies to, oh, it's during her death and put it together. You have to apply. You have to look at the situation and apply what is necessary. Is this clicking? I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but is this helping? Does this, when I say, oh, I want you to study, this is one way to do it. Because, and I know I say this all the time in my one-on-one, so that's what I want to be able to do for you all, since I'm not doing as much. I can do some, but I'm not doing as much tutoring. I want to give you all the tutoring here. When you're studying, I need you to look. Are you studying actively or are you studying passively? This I do not want. That is a trap. We do not fall for the traps. It's kind of like when you buy a bag of Oreos. You're like, I'm just going to sit here and watch TV and eat 3 of them. Lies. Lies and allegations. These no. This is, and I hate to say it, but this is what happens when you watch the webinars or when you watch videos of me doing questions. You studied actively after meeting us? Good. Because what happens is y'all are like, oh, when the webinars and videos go on, I know all the answers. Yay! Well, yeah, that's true because we're talking you through it. What we want is your brain to actively, you find the answer. You find the answer. You're always hearing me say, look, I want you all to come up with the answer. I want you to ask me questions. I was telling somebody the other night, I gave them the idea. Remember when you were watching your mom or your grandma or your auntie, whoever it was, cooking something, and you watch them make that recipe, I don't know how many times while you were younger. I mean, this was something they made all of the time. You got older, you got your own place without your parents or your grandma or your auntie or your uncle, whoever it was, Maybe you watched your dad grill, and all of a sudden, even though you've been watching them the whole time, even though you could probably say, oh, no, 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 this is what the next step is. When they're gone and they're not there, you're calling them up like, wait, I just want to confirm what was it that you did again right then? And that's what happens on the test. When you passively study, oh yeah, it makes sense. But then when I'm not there, y'all are like, oh, I wish I could take you on the test. I mean, you have me in your head, and I know you know the information, but I need to know that you know you have the answer in your head and that you can pull it up. Hopefully this is helping. So I wanted to go over that. I told myself I'd spend the first half an hour of today talking about it, which I did. So now I wanted to open this up to you all. I can do math. I can go over a topic. You all let me know, because I think that's what I want to do. The first half of every class, I will do a lesson. I will talk about something. Boom. The second half, depending on how many questions you all have, will be all on you all. What do you want me to talk about? I like this format. So this is our new format. The first 30 minutes is a lesson, and the next 30 minutes is student choice. I want you all to ask questions. I know you hear it all the time, but I don't know what you know and what you don't know. I don't know what you know and what you don't know. I need you to tell me what you want me to go over. So, let's go for it. What you got for me? If you say, Candace, can we go over some questions? I'll go over some questions. If you say, Candace, can we go over some math? I'll go over some math. You tell me. Nothing? Math? Okay, we can do some math. Elena, is there any math type of problem that you wanted me specifically to do? And you cannot say points. You said, I feel like you ask me every time for points. I mean, I will do points. But Elena, I know you can do math. So dream on every discount point. Why did I know you said discount points, Elena? Discount points. I know you know how to do discount points. Net to seller. I swear, Elena, I know you know how to do it. Dream on eventing. Is there any type of math you want to see me do? I know. I love you, Elena. You just want to see me do it, even though I know you could do it on your own. I know you could. Amortization. Yes, let's talk about amortization. So let's do this problem here. So number one, what would be the PI payment on a $220,000 loan with a factor of 5.84? Now dream on eventing. Do you use, you want to make sure you know the exam. Last time I lost at discount points. You know it, Elena. I know you know it, but we will go over. I'll talk about it one more time, but you got this one. I know you know how to do discount points. So dream on eventing. Do you use a T-bar, or do you do this kind of through algebra and memorizing an equation? Right. Are you T-bar? Ooh, yeah, Monty, I can get to that. Remind me if I will definitely do that. Elena says she uses the T-bar, and dream on eventing, what do you do? I can do it both ways. Algebra mostly. Okay, so I'll do it algebraically, and then I'll do the T-bar. So, algebraically, we know when this problem says, oh, there's a factor of 5.84, that is a rate. It's a rate that's telling you you're going to pay $5.84 monthly for every $1,000 borrowed. It's a rate. It's the same way. If you want a gallon of gas, you might pay $3.50 per gallon of gas that you want. If you want to borrow money, then you're going to pay $5.84 for every 1,000 you borrow. So what that kind of equates to is, if you know the number of 1,000s in the loan and you multiply it by the factor, which is a rate of P&I, you're going to get a amount of PI payment. And that's monthly. So if you're getting a house and a mortgage, are you getting a boat? Are you buying a car? This is always the formula that they use. They go through and they say, oh, how many thousands are you borrowing? Okay, well, we have a magic way of doing this. You're going to pay $5.84 for every 1,000 you borrow. So if you're buying a house that's got a $220,000 loan, you want to know how many thousands are in that loan. So I'm going to take 220,000 and divide by 1,000, which gives me 220. This is that number right there. So I'm going to take 220 and multiply it by the factor. The factor was $5.84. And when I do that, that tells me my payment is 220 times 5.84. This payment is $1,284.80 each month until it's paid off. That amount, if it's a fully amortized loan, would never change. So that's answer one. How we do it. Cool. If I was T-barring this, I would make a T-bar. We know the easiest thing to find is the rate. And the rate in this problem is a rate of P&I payment. That means up here it's mirrored. It's an amount of P&I payment. And that's based off of the number of thousands in the loan. Well, my rate was $5.84. My number of thousands in the loan was 220. I would multiply, and that would give me $1,284.80. That would be how to find an amount of amortized monthly payment. So I believe, that's okay, Dream on Everything. If you didn't learn it, you can just watch. I believe, is that what you meant, Dream on Everything, when you said you would love to talk about amortization? Now, though that is like a very basic problem. Sometimes what you get are problems where they want you to use the amortization chart, or they want you to say how many, what's the amount of the next payment that goes through, things like that. So yay, that's what you needed. Yay. And what you can do, Dream on Eventing, is if there is a question you've tried before, set it aside. Not what you see on the exam, but like if you're doing practice and you're like, I'd love to see Candace go through this. You take it, you bring it either here on a Wednesday evening or Friday afternoon, put it in the chat, and we'll work on it together. All right. I'm just scrolling down the list because this is what we do. I'm going to come back to discount points. Let's see. The difference between a variance and non-conforming use permit. Yes, I can do that, Amani. So a variance versus a non-conforming use. Okay, so both of these do not match current zoning. They do not match, not math, current zoning. However, with a variance, permission to be different was asked and granted because you proved there was a hardship. Versus in a non-conforming use, it is part of the zoning, like the laws of zoning, and you still need permission. You get permission or a permit. Not permit. You don't need permission. I don't even want to say it that way. Let's say they give you permission. Given permission because, yes, I did say because that way, the use was already existing. What do I mean? So remember, non-conforming use is something that was grandfathered in. More importantly, the zoning changed. So in a non-conforming use, I was using it. I was using my property in a certain way. I was doing a great thing with my property. They changed it. They changed the zoning, and they're letting the old use continue, even though it doesn't match. In a variance, you are asking permission because there's a hardship. So let me give you an example, a variance exception. Yes. All right, so let me give an example of both. Sometimes when you are in a subdivision, you might have a house. So let's say this is the house. And maybe there's a back patio like this. And maybe there's a driveway like this. And maybe there's a front porch like this. And then there'll be a rule. There'll be a zoning rule that says no more than 40% of your land can be impenetrable. What's the word I'm looking for? Can be, what's the word? It means that water can't soak through. Cannot be, can be, cement. What is the word I'm thinking of? It's cement, it's house, it's asphalt, it's, what is that friggin' word? It is, I'm going to say not non-penetrable, but there's another word, penetrable, penetratable, I don't know. It's right there at the top of my friggin' tongue. It's it's, water can't soak the, permeable, impermeable. I don't know if that's how you spell it, but impermeable. And what that means is when it rains, hey, come back here. Are you going to, there we go. This is rain. When it rains, those are water drops. That water runs off somewhere. And they're saying no more than 40% of the yard because that water that hits that impermeable surface, it's got to go somewhere. Well, let's say this house is already at 38% impermeable surface. Is that the right word? I don't even know. And then let's say what happens is, very sadly, somebody in your household ends up in a wheelchair. Right? They end up in a wheelchair. Well, maybe what you need to do is make this driveway. You need all of this to be cemented. You need the porch and the walkway to be cemented to get you here. You want to expand the patio so that there can be more backyard for this person. But if you were to do that, you would be greater than 40%. In a variance, you go and ask permission to do something that doesn't match because their rule is causing a hardship. That is a variance. You're asking, hey, can I be allowed to do something different because your rule is causing me a hardship? Versus an example of a non-conforming use is maybe I'm out in the country and I have a house, and on the back of the house, I have a salon. And I opened this salon in like 1985, and now in 2015, it was open, and it was good. But then in 2016, they said they rezoned to residential only. In 2016, they rezoned to residential only. Now, my salon does not match. It does not match the use. But they're going to allow me to continue. They're going to grandfather my use in. They're basically going to say, you know what, Candace? You can continue. But no new salons. I'm going to be allowed to continue, and it's not, even though it doesn't match current zoning, it's not against the law because I got permission to do so. Now, it may not be forever. They might say, hey, you can run this salon for the next 30 years, and then you need to be up to date with somebody else. In some places, they would let me sell my salon, and somebody else could continue with the salon, or if I try to sell it, the new person would not be able to run the salon. It just depends. But the key point here is whether or not you were grandfathered in because the use was already existing, or did you have to ask and prove a hardship? Does that help? I think it was, I don't remember, Amani. Does that help? What questions do you have on that? And then Z, if you're still here, I can discuss property valuation and financial analysis for California. You're going to have to give me a little bit more like what part you're looking for there. Wouldn't that be a restriction on the deed if you can't sell the salon? Well, the information is not in the deed. The information is about the zoning ordinances. That has nothing to do with the deed. The deed is the document between the seller and the buyer. This is not something the seller decided. This is something the city decided. So even if you own the salon and you were selling it to me, it's not that you gave me a deed that says you can or can't have a salon. It's that the city or municipality is telling me that. Right? Does that help? Hopefully so. Anything else? I love doing office hours too. I love being able to help. Good. I love that. I love it. There's so much. And if you're working on this without a teacher, I think it's helpful having these office hours, which is what I'm considering these office hours so that you can come to me for help. You know, will I do questions? Sometimes, yes. Will I do math sometimes? Also, yes. But the more you come with questions, the more I'm able to help you. So, anything else? Otherwise, I will do one discount point problem before I go. But I want to give you all a chance to ask. But this was great. This was great questions, guys. And feel free to always email me and say, hey, Candace, on the next live, can you go over X? Because sometimes when I'm asking you all right here, you're like, I don't know it. I want you to go over, Candace. Well, email me. You know my email. The easiest way is Candace Ellis at Gmail. I would appreciate if during the week I got an email that said, hey, Candace, do you think on the next live I could go over boom? All right, let's do the discount points. Just looking at points. All right. Let's do number 4. A bank is charging Meredith 2.75% with 3 discount points on a loan of $175,000. How much will it cost Meredith? All right, we can do this. If you get this question, we love it because we know there's a way to do it. We know that 1 discount point costs 1% of the loan. So that means with 3 discount points, it would cost somebody 3% of the loan. Think of this as prepaid interest. You want this 2.75 interest rate? Well, we wanted to give it to you a lot higher, not a lot higher, but higher, and that means we're missing out on some interest. So pay the interest up front. Right? So what do? We do 3% times the amount of the loan. $175,000. So I got what Elena got, $5,250. Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. So, what else? Do we need to do another one? Maybe a more complicated one? Let's do number 7. This one's a little bit more complicated. A home is purchased for $180,000, but is appraised for $175,000. The bank will make an 80% loan-to-value loan. The bank rate is 6.78%, but the investors demand a 7.25% yield. The buyer will also be charged 1 loan point origination fee. What will be the cost of all points? Oof. Well, I know that there's 2 types of points. We're going to have our discount points, I should say, not even discount points. We're going to have our points for the yield. And we know we're going to have 1 point for the loan origination. All right. Well, let's talk about this yield. Sometimes banks run out of money. And what they need to do is they need to borrow money. So maybe this bank takes out a loan, and that loan, the loan that the bank has to pay back also has interest. It says 7.25. The loan repayment is at 7.25. So the bank's loan, the bank has to pay back 7.25% interest. But also, you as the borrower could go down the street and get a loan at 6 7/8%. I mean, why would you borrow money at 7.25 when you could borrow money at 6 7/8? You wouldn't. And the bank wants to make sure that you go with them. So they very sneakily go, oh, that other bank is offering you 6 7/8. We can meet that. We can totally do that. No, they can't, because the bank owes 7.25%, which is also, by the way, 7.25, which is also 7 1/4, which is also 7 2/8. But I can go over if you don't know why those numbers are what they are. So what we're saying is, oh my goodness, the bank wants to charge 6 7/8, but that's not going to work. They're going to need some more money if they're going to pay back the bank. The bank is going to pay back their loan. So what they're going to do is charge 1 point. And that 1 point is going to get you to 7%. Okay, well, that's not where they need to be. They need to be at 7 1/4, which is also 7 2/8. So they're going to make this buyer pay another point. And that's going to get them to 7 1/8. But we're trying to get to 7 2/8. So the bank is going to have them pay another point. This is prepaid interest. And that gets us to 7 2/8, which is 7 1/4, which is 7.25. So it's going to take 1, 2, 3 points. Well, the loan is $175,000. But is it? But is it? It's actually not the loan. The bank is going to make 80% loan to value. And if they bought it for $180 and it appraised for $175, as far as the bank is concerned, the value equals $175,000. They don't care what the contract says. This is what the appraiser says. Cool. And they're borrowing 80% of that. They're borrowing 80% of the 175. Always go. If there's a difference between the appraised price and the contract price, always go with the lower number. So I'm going to do 175 times 80%. And that means this loan is for $140,000. Well, if it's a $140,000 loan and we need 3 points, we know that's 3%. So we're looking for $140,000 times 3%. So that's $4,200. But don't forget, we still need to do our 1 point loan origination fee. Well, 1% is how much? $1,400. So when you add all of these up, boom. Does that make sense? You always go with the number. You got that question wrong today. That's okay. That is okay. So Elena, you're lost on this. Does it make sense now? That's why we're here. I know it's 3:57. I'm not going anywhere. I want to make sure. Why is it so confusing? So Elena, does it make sense why they use the lower of the two numbers? Does this make sense? Why we choose the lower of the two numbers? Am I planning to do a continue video from the math video I posted? Which math? Oh, you mean the one on how to do the T-bars? I have videos on my page on how to do the T-bars. I do have a series. Email me tricks and let's see what you're talking about. I do have videos that continue on. All right, so Elena, you're good. This makes sense. So all you really need to remember are 3 things. 1, use the lower number. 2, so that's going to be difference between appraised and the price. 2, 1 point costs 1%. And 3, a point moves 1/8 of a percent, which is the same as 0.125 of a percent. If you can remember those 3 things, you can get it done. You were lost on the 3 points and fraction part. All right, dream on eventing if the costers you. Yes, you use that because why? Let's say you, dream on. I know I'm shortening your name. Let's say you are buying the house for 180. Well, if the appraiser comes back and says, "Oh, it's only worth 175." What happens if you were to lose your job next month and you had to sell your house? They're not going to consider the value to be 180. If you want to pay 180, you knock yourself out. But as far as the appraiser is concerned, the appraiser is telling the bank, look, if you were to put this house on the market tomorrow, what do I think you could get for it? An appraiser is telling this bank, I think you could only get 175. So the bank's like, look, okay, I'll give you monies based off of a value of 175, but not 180 because the appraiser doesn't think that it's worth 180. You don't understand what the bank rate is and the investor demands. That's a great question. So, how familiar are you with the secondary mortgage market and that concept? How familiar are you with the secondary mortgage market and the Federal Reserve System? Elaine is right. It's where they are bought and sold. So let's kind of draw this out, right? We know there's a bank. The bank gives out loans. Right? They give loans to people. And in return, people sign a promissory note, maybe at 5% interest. And over 30 years, this bank is going to receive back the principal amount plus any interest. Is everybody with me? Okay, that is just scribble. I mean, I'm sorry. They're getting the... Let's see if I can make that a little better. They're getting the principal plus interest. That's what's going here. Now, to get the maximum interest, it's going to take 30 years. So what happens? We know banks can then sell their loan to the secondary mortgage market. So that's the basics. Well, we also know that this money that the banks make loans with, that money is sitting in the bank, and that money comes from deposits and investments. Well, eventually, they loan out all the money. All the money is gone. So what a bank does is calls up either another bank or the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve gives them a loan. And in exchange, the bank gives them a promissory note. Because this other bank is giving the first bank, the green bank, money, and then the bank that the blue bank gives the green bank is going to be used to give these loans. Sometimes banks use money that's not theirs to make a loan. Now, just like with the other promissory note, there could be an interest rate. Let's say they're promised to paying them back at 7%. They promise to pay back at 7%. But this buyer said, hey, I'll pay you back 5%. What? That means when the bank, if the bank collects this money, let's say they don't sell it on the secondary market. Let's say they keep it. If the bank is going to pay back this 5% interest, I'm sorry, not the bank is going to collect 5% interest, but they owe 7%. They're collecting 5, but they owe 7%. The missing interest, that's where we go. It's the yield. That's what the yield is. Just like when you make brownies and it'll say, oh, this recipe yields 2 dozen brownies. It's what you get. They need this interest to yield 7%, so they charge you points. Banks borrow money. So let me do this again. Banks borrow money. So this bank borrowed money here at 7%. They make a loan, but that buyer is only paying 5%. So they're going to charge points to this buyer so that the bank will have 7% to give back to where they borrowed the money. Whew. It's called in for what's ordered to cover what's needed. Exactly. I know this looks crazy, but you saw me writing it. Does this help? Does this help? Dream On and Amani. Does this help kind of explain the why this is happening? Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I think that's a yes. I think that's a yes. Yes, you need those harder questions. They help you understand the whole system. Yes. Are points only applied in the beginning? Not a dumb question. Yes, you pay points at the beginning. As far as you all are concerned, points are paid when you close on the loan. So whether it's points for a yield or whether it's points for discount, they are paid at closing. It's a buyer debit. The buyer owes those monies. Now, could a seller pay closing costs? Sure. But they're a buyer debt on that CD, buyer debit on that CD. The buyer owes and the bank is going to receive. Whoop, whoop. Yay. Oh, see, I love it. I love, look, Amani and Dream On. This is why this is why. Anybody who already understood this doesn't hurt to hear it again. But for you all, if I can make it make sense, so the next time you get a question about this, it makes more sense, or even better, it makes all the sense in the world, then you get it right and then you pass, and you won't get sued, hopefully, when you become a real estate agent. Yay. Do they really make up that money from points? Actually, yes. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. So, guys, it is 4 o'clock. I'm going to say goodbye. Just let me know. Is this a good format? Do you like the first 30 minutes is me, and then the second 30 minutes is you all asking questions? And then if you want, maybe 30 minutes will be new agent training. So that once you become a new agent, if you have questions, you help me. Yay. Good. Yes, you will email me. You need that checkup. All right. Love it. Okay, guys, hopefully this is helping. Look, of course, thank you for coming in. I love doing this with you all. Like I said, it makes me a better teacher. And since I can't do it through Prep Agent anymore, I'll just do it here. So guys, I will see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is noon PST. And today is 8/1/2025. So there you go. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. You need the syllabus words. Yep, just email me. You're good. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye, everybody.